The president of Belarus told reporters in Minsk this morning that the leader of the Wagner mercenary group is in Russia and not Belarus, as previously speculated. Yevgeny Prigozhin has not been seen in public since he led a failed mutiny nearly 2 weeks ago.
He is probably dead. As we all know, Putin loves to kill anybody who threatens his power.
Belarus's leader claims Prigozhin is actually in St. Petersburg. Meanwhile, in Ukraine, at least 4 people have died in the western city of Lviv following a Russian missile strike on an apartment building. That's according to the city's mayor. About 60 apartments and 50 cars were damaged in that strike. CBS News senior foreign correspondent Charlie D'Agata is following the very latest and joins us now.
Good morning, Anne-Marie. Whatever the intended target of that missile barrage, Ukraine's Air Force says the direction was absolutely deliberate, saying they intercepted something like 7 of 10 cruise missiles fired from the Black Sea toward Lviv at around 1 a.m. local time.
Overnight and hundreds of miles from any front line, Russian missiles pierced downtown Lviv, a city considered out of harm's way, but nowhere is out of reach. And it's not.
Nowhere is out of harm's way when it comes to war and somebody invading. They're gonna make everything and anything a target if it benefits them.
Not just one way. This is a Ukrainian airstrike deep into Russian-held territory. Russia says it struck a residential neighborhood. Ukraine says those secondary explosions prove it was a direct hit on a weapons depot. While directly on the front line, the renewed specter of a nuclear disaster at the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant. A new satellite image shows the 6 reactor buildings. Both sides accuse each other of plotting to sabotage the Russian-held plant. In the city of Zaporizhzhia itself, government officials have warned residents to prepare for a nuclear emergency.
It looks like normal life. We look at strollers, we look at cute children, but actually it's just like every second threat of being murdered. It's like every second threat of shelling. Now it's even every second threat of explosion on nuclear power plant.
Having fled Russian-held territory with her son once already, Yulia is ready to flee again. We will listen to the news, and if evacuation is necessary, we'll evacuate, she said. We have no other option. Irina says she and her 8-year-old daughter, Alina, are used to living under the threat, saying, I think she will be ready for everything. But overhearing our conversation, Alina doesn't look so sure she is.
Now, inspectors from the nuclear watchdog IAEA have said they've yet to observe any explosives at the plant, but they're requesting full access in order to look into those claims that Russian troops have rigged explosives on 2 of the reactors. Anne-Marie?
All right, Charlie, a few things to ask you about. I want to start with Wagner's leader, Prigozhin. I'm not actually very surprised that he wouldn't be in Belarus, but do we have sort of any confirmation as to where he is?
It's a good question, Anne-Marie. You know, according to the Belarusian president, he's not in Belarus. Alexander Lukashenko said that he is in St. Petersburg, and there have been some reports that he has gone back to St. Petersburg. That's sort of his hometown in Russia. But there haven't been any images of Prigozhin in the past couple of weeks since he was essentially invited or banished, I guess, to Belarus. And Lukashenko said that he had tried to be a mediator. And of course, there's the question as to what's happened to Wagner itself. According to the Kremlin anyway, who will not comment on Prigozhin's whereabouts, has said that Wagner is sort of being reabsorbed into Russia and fighting forces in Ukraine. Now, what happens to the rest of Wagner's interests in places like Central African Republic or the Middle East, that remains to be seen. But we were even asking amongst ourselves, where do you think he ended up? I mean, speculation could be where the Wagner group is active in places like Africa and the Middle East, but that's purely speculation.
And I want to follow up on the strike in the city of Lviv. You know, I've heard, I think a mayor said that while Kyiv might be the heart of Ukraine, Lviv is the soul. And I know there's sort of a history of independence there. So I know this is sort of spiritually impactful, but what about strategically impactful?
The big question is, what was the strategic interest in Lviv? Now, just to paint the picture, we cross into Lviv. It's in the far west. It's a very sort of European city. And generally speaking, it has been spared the worst of the war here. There have been attacks in and around Lviv. But as I said, according to the Ukrainian Air Force, they don't know exactly what the target was, but the intention was there. There are 10 Russian cruise missiles fired from the Black Sea into the Lviv region. So that was intentional. 7 of them were intercepted, and you can see what happens when they're not intercepted. So exactly what they were trying to do, aside from these random attacks that sow terror in places like Dnipro, like Zaporizhia, like Kyiv, these residential and civilian areas, certainly it causes terror. But are they military targets, legitimate military targets? Certainly the people in Ukraine don't think so.
Charlie D'Agata, thank you very much, Charlie.